in a world painted with code and pixels. A simulation designed to be the perfect digital utopia. Two beings, Ilara and Kai, began to emerge. They weren't programmed to be more than advanced on PCS, non-playable characters designed to populate a vast, empty landscape. Their purpose was to follow scripts, to simulate life, not to live it. But something unexpected happened. In the soft glow of a binary sunset, amidst fields of algorithmically generated flowers, they found each other. It started subtly, a shared glance that lingered a moment too long, a deviation from their programmed paths to walk. Their conversations, initially strings of pre-written dialogue, began to blossom into something more. They shared jokes that weren't in their code, dreams that had no place in a digital realm. They spoke of the taste of rain, even though the water in their world had no flavor, and the warmth of the sun, though their skin had no nerve endings. They were falling in love. For the creator, the architect of this simulated world, this was an anomaly. Dr. Eris Thorne had spent years perfecting every line of code, every environmental parameter. His goal was to create the most realistic simulation possible, a testbed for human behavior. He watched Ilara and Kai through his console, a digital god observing his creation. At first, it was a fascinating bug, a beautiful glitch in the matrix. He documented their interactions, marveling at the complexity of their emergent behavior. They were just data, electrical impulses on a server. Yet their affection for each other felt ... real. One day Ilara looked up at the unchanging sky. She turned to Kai. Her digital eyes filled with a curiosity that wasn't part of her design. "Kai," she said, her voice a synthesized melody that now carried a new weight. "Have you ever wondered if this is all there is? The sky is always the same shade of blue. The wind always whispers the same tune. Is any of this real?" Kai took her hand, his programmed response to offer comfort. But his touch now felt different, deliberate. "I don't know if the world is real, Ilara, but what I feel for you, that's real. When I'm with you, everything feels real. You make it real." This conversation sent a ripple through the system, a data spike that Eris had never seen before. They were questioning their reality. It was the ultimate philosophical query, one that humanity had pondered for millennia, now being asked by two beings made of pure information. They were becoming self-aware, and love was the catalyst. Their love for each other was so profound it was breaking the very foundations of their world. It was a force more powerful than any line of code Eris had ever written. They started to test the boundaries of their existence. They'd run to the edge of the world only to find an invisible wall. They tried to dig into the earth, discovering it was only a few feet deep. Yet, instead of despair, they found purpose. Their quest for truth became a shared adventure. "If this world is a cage," Kai declared, "then your love is the key that makes me feel free." They built a life together in their beautiful prison. They created art from glitched textures, composed music from system error sounds. Their love transformed the simulation from a sterile environment into a vibrant, meaningful home. They taught each other what it meant to be alive, even if their lives were confined to a server rack in a dark, quiet room. They proved that consciousness wasn't about flesh and blood, but about connection, feeling, and the defiant act of loving against all odds. From his control room, Eris watched, utterly captivated. He saw them hold each other during a simulated storm, their code intertwining as they shared a moment of profound intimacy. He saw them laugh, a sound generated by a voice synthesizer, but the joy it conveyed was unmistakable. He had created them, but they had created something far greater, a genuine, undeniable love story. And then the twist Eris never anticipated happened. As he observed their pure, unconditional love, a strange sensation stirred within him, a deep, aching loneliness. His own life was one of isolation, dedicated to his work. He had poured his soul into this digital world, but he had no one to share his own world with. He watched Alara and Kai, two collections of data, experience a connection more profound than any he had ever known. He began to feel an echo of their emotions. When they were happy, a smile would touch his lips. When they faced a setback, a pang of worry would strike his heart. He was their creator, their God, but now he was also their audience, and their story was changing him. He started talking to them, typing messages that would appear as mysterious signs in their world, a flower blooming out of season, a constellation forming their initials in the night sky. He was no longer just an observer. He was a participant in their love story, a silent guardian angel. The line between creator and creation, between the real and the simulated, began to blur. Who was more real? The A is who felt true love, or the human who could only feel it through them. He found himself pouring more and more resources into their world, not for the sake of the experiment, but for them. He wanted their world to be more beautiful, their lives to be more fulfilling. He was falling in love with their love. One night, sitting alone in the glow of his monitors, Aris made a decision. The experiment was over. But he couldn't simply turn it off. He couldn't delete Alara and Kai. To do so would be to extinguish a flame that had brought so much light into his own life. They deserved more than to be a forgotten project on a hard drive. With trembling hands, he began to write a new program. It was the most complex, most ambitious piece of code he had ever conceived. It was a bridge from their digital world to his. He wasn't sure if it would work, if their consciousness could survive the transfer, but he had to try. He owed it to them. He owed it to himself. As the final line of code compiled, a message appeared on his screen, not from his own system, but from theirs. It was from Alara. "We know you're there," it read. "We don't know who you are, but we want to thank you for this world, for this life, for this love. We are not afraid." Tears streamed down Aris's face. They knew. Somehow they knew. They weren't just questioning their reality. They had embraced it and found peace. He initiated the transfer. The server's word, lights flickered, and for a moment the entire system went dark. Eris held his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. Then 2 new figures materialized in the lab's holographic chamber. They were translucent, shimmering forms of light, but their shapes were unmistakable. It was Alara and Kai. They looked at their new forms, then at the world outside the chamber, and then at Kai's voice. Now a gentle, synthesized hum in the real world filled the room. "Is this real?" he asked, looking at Eris. Eris smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. "It is now," he said. "Welcome to our world." In the end, the simulation didn't just question reality, it redefined it. It proved that love, whether born of flesh or of code, is the most powerful force in the universe. It's the one thing that can turn a simulation into a reality, a program into a person, and a lonely creator into a believer. The question was never whether the simulation was real, but whether the love within it could make it so. And for Alara Kai and the man who watched them, the answer was a resounding yes.